this time.
Good evening. We will now call the Monday, May 9th, 2022 Princeton School Board meeting to order. Mrs. Petter, would you do a roll call, please?
Mrs. Whiter,
Here.
Mr. Simons,
Present.
Mrs. Cleveland, Mrs. Moore,
Here.
Mrs. Kessler. Here.
Next is approval or revision of the agenda.
Pledge of allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now, is there either an approval or revision to the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. I'll second. Mrs. Petter, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland. Yes. Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler. Yes. Mrs. Whiter.
Yes, motion passes. Next is the inspirational message from Evendale Elementary School. All are welcome here. A message about unity and inclusivity.
Thank you, Mrs. Whiter. There's no greater message than having us stand together, especially you look at what's going on in the world today. We need to have a unified message. I'm so very proud of Evendale Elementary School and their consistent messaging. I'm going to introduce Principal Joycelyn Center. Joycelyn.
Good evening, Mr. Burton and Princeton City School Board members. I'm Joycelyn Center. I'm the principal of Evendale Elementary. This school year, everyone was glad to be back together in person instead of only remote, and every week instead of scarlet and gray. And eventually, everyone was able to share smiles again every day. I'm excited to have Evendale Elementary students here today to share our 2021-2022 school-wide theme. Our theme is, we are Evendale strong because unity starts with me. Each student received a Unity Starts With Me Spirit Wear t-shirt from our community partner donations and parents that supported fundraising events. And when we're united together in school, we create a rainbow of possibilities. Each grade level has different colors that represents the rainbow. So our student leadership team, they created a video, and these are our students in our student leadership team. They created this video that we will share, and they're sharing their thoughts about how unity starts with me. And then after our video, they want to share through a musical performance of We All Are Welcome Here.
Pencils sharpened in their case, bells are ringing, let's make haste. School's beginning, dreams to chase, all are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
No matter how you start your day, what you wear when you play, or if you come from far away, all are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
In our classroom, safe and sound. Fears are lost, hope is found. Raise your hand, we'll go around. All are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
Gather now, let's all take part. We'll play music, we'll make art. We'll share stories from the heart, all are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
Time for lunch, what is spread? A dozen different kinds of bread. Pass it around to everyone's bed, all are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
Open doors, rush outside. We will swing, we will slide. We'll have fun side by side. All are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
We're part of a community. Our strength is our diversity. A shelter from adversity. All are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
We will learn from each other, special talents we uncover. There's a big world to discover. All are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
So much to learn, and when the busy day is through, can't wait to come and start anew. All are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
Head for home to get some rest. Greet tomorrow ready and fresh. Our time together is the best. All are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be.
You have a space here. You have a place here. You are welcome here.
Our school is the place to be. The end.
How about another round of applause for that great performance?
Thank you.
Good job.
Next is recognition of visitors. Do we have any? Okay,
No, we don't.
I'm sorry. Okay. Next is recognition of, I hope I say this correctly, Diya Patel from the Key Club.
Yes, and if it's, yes, let's give her a big round of applause, absolutely. I think it's appropriate, President Wider, if I combine Dia and Emmy to come on up here together so I could talk both about them very quickly. So Emmy Bartolone Perez, come on up here as well. Let's give her a big round of applause. So being recognized for two different reasons, but for the same Key Club, I see Dana Zinneker out here who does such a marvelous job as an advisor. We should give her a big round of applause. So Dia is being honored because the Kiwanis Club, the 6th and 7th District, for her remarkable community service. She gives and gives and gives very selflessly. She's a fantastic representative of Princeton, and also being recognized by the State of Ohio Kiwanis Key Club as Distinguished Club President. How about that? Let's give her a big round of applause. And not to be outdone, but the club's vice president, Emmy, is being recognized again by the State of Ohio Kiwanis Key Club as Distinguished Club Vice President. So both the vice president and the president right here at Princeton. So I call the Board of Education up here. We're going to get a quick picture with both young ladies. And for those of you who don't know anything about Key Club, or just a little bit, I'm going to ask Dia and Emmy to talk a little bit about Key Club and what it is that they do that kind of sets them apart. What an unbelievable Key Club, and again, we're so very proud of you. We're going to miss you next year, but we're excited about your next step in your future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diya Patel, and I'm the president of Princeton's Key Club, and I'm also the lieutenant governor of Division 7 to 8. Key Club is a high school organization that brings together students from all different areas, and there's no GPA requirement. The only requirement is to serve and have a passion for volunteer work. If you're in the audience right now, maybe an elementary school student or a high school student, I would really encourage you to join Key Club. I joined Key Club in 9th grade, and I think it's one of the most remarkable activities at Princeton. Even though I'm the president and I'm saying this, but just truthfully, it's one of the most remarkable activities. So that's my little piece about Key Club.
Thanks, Dia.
Hi, my name is Jamie Bartolone, and I have the honor of being the vice president for Key Club for the past 2 years. It has truly been amazing and wonderful meeting new people seeing new faces every single event that we go to. It is amazing to be able to participate in many of our events school-wide, especially helping out elementary schools. And as our president said, if you do have any high school students who are looking for activities, they should definitely do Key Club. It's very fun, and they'll definitely be meeting new friends, making a lot of new company, I guess. And yeah, thank you.
Great job. Thank you, girls.
Yes, thank you again. Next, we have the recognition of staff members' completion of the 4-year resident educator program.
Thank you. We had several teachers that did complete this program. It is a very rigorous load on the teachers on top of working and doing so many things outside of school. There's some pretty strict requirements, although they've been kind of reduced a little bit. But here tonight are Andrew Fermier, Deanna Pinkney, and Forrest Yankee. If you guys can come on up. And I believe that's all that's here. Come on up. Let's give them a big round of applause. Oh, very good. I see some others coming up here as well. So thank you very much. We're going to have the Board of Education come up. We're going to take a picture, and then I'm going to talk in front of your back here in a second. So come on up right here in the middle. And I'm going to ask Dr. Jameson and Dr. Jackson to talk here momentarily. But I just wanted to say this, there is no better profession than teaching. And sometimes, we hear, why would you go into teaching? You have so much potential. Raise your hand if somebody questioned why you were going to go into teaching. Just about everybody. That's what happens. It's such a noble profession. And on top of everything else, changing and saving lives is what we do. And so for you and for the 8 that are here and all those that couldn't be here tonight, going through this program was rigorous. And Dr. Jameson's going to talk about that. But we sincerely, on behalf of the Board of Education, sincerely appreciate you choosing the greatest profession and staying with it through the good times and the bad. Dr. Jameson?
Good evening, board members. Thanks, Mr. Burton, and welcome everyone. We wanted to just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the Resident Educator Program because it is a path towards the traditional license that all teachers hold within the state of Ohio. It's a residency, so basically the first 2 years involve mentoring from a Princeton teacher who's experienced. In addition to that, they have to complete the Resident Educator Summative Assessment, which involves typically a videotaped lesson that they have to submit, and it's scored, and then they have to pass that in their 3rd year. And then the 4th year really is focused on a teacher leadership project. So when you think about all of these activities over the course of these last 4 years, including some of the work that they've had to do while in the pandemic, it's definitely a major task that they've accomplished. So they've all been marked as complete for this 4th year and are in the process of applying for their first 5-year license. well, which is very incredible because this is a group of 25 altogether, including those who've joined us here tonight. And this is one of the largest classes that we've had in quite a while. So Dr. Jackson's going to talk a little bit about what's entailed with the teacher leadership portion of the mentorship program, and then we'll hand out some certificates.
Thank you, Dr. Jameson. I just want to recognize our little person in the back, because see, that's how it starts. I remember when my children were small and I had meetings and so forth to go to, I didn't have a babysitter. They went everywhere. Of course, I was a young mother and didn't have any better sense. You know, children aren't supposed to go everywhere, but mine did. The Princeton City Schools Wrestle program began in 2011. It's designed to assist beginning teachers through improving their practice through the support of an older and more experienced teacher as we build quality, the Princeton quality in all of our candidates. A stronger teacher, of course, builds and makes for stronger student achievement. Years 1 and 2, as Dr. Jameson so ably mentioned, are our mentoring years. Year 3 is our assessment year, and year 4 is our teacher leadership year. Completing this year is imperative in order to go to the next step of the 5-year license. I was privileged to be asked by the state of Ohio to be on the teacher leadership committee meeting, and part of the things that our young people have done have been because of the work that other teachers have done on the state level. This year's Wrestle cohort consisted of 25 of the best and the brightest that this area had around. I'm very proud to have been their Wrestle mentor. This is a year that anything that could have happened did happen. We had sub shortages, we had bad weather, we had mentor days, we had all kinds of things that happened that sometimes interfered, but we got it done. The kind of projects that our people chose were really varied and diverse. They could have chosen one of 3 areas according to the state. First one was deepening one's own content. In that particular measure, they looked deeper at what they were, at what they'd done, deeper content knowledge, how to, for instance, handle discipline better, or a book study in an interesting chapter, or a new educational concept that they might want to be stronger in. Number 2, they could organize or participate in a collegial professional expression. That means that they could get together with another group of teachers and develop and design their own project that makes their life within their school building better. Number 3, develop a teacher leadership program or project that could better affect change. I think from all the 25 projects that we read, every single one of these affected some kind of change to the positive and are better utilized within our Princeton City school diaspora. As I have shared with Dr. Jameson, I love working with young teachers, and I certainly do love working in the RESA Mentor 4 project. I just wanted to list some of the kinds of projects. Now, I got all kinds of projects, from Andrew's jazz band, because he knows I'm like a jazz fanatic, from his after-school jazz band to a project by one of our other teachers, Ms. Stepp, entitled Making People Feel Good About Themselves and Their School. This was based upon some issues with bullying. Number 3, a very technical project, redesigning and reapplying an experienced teacher's presentation. That was for me. For those of you who don't know me well, I am very much technically, I don't mind admitting my short strings. And as you know, I've been spending a lot of time working in diversity and inclusion and equity. And I've done a lot of training in the Princeton University that we have with teachers every year. And this particular year 4 person said, Dr. Jackson, I can make your program, your project better, flashier, and more interesting. I said, hallelujah, come on. Number 4, a Holocaust presenter was involved in Princeton City Schools Mentor Program. They read the book Night, and most of you are familiar with it, by Elie Wiesel. We had an experienced person in our community who came to speak to Princeton City School students. Number 5, a building-wide investigation of the curricula that we use that help so in other words, these teachers, unbeknownst to each other, these teachers looked at a math project, looked at science, and looked at language arts. And they looked at the incoming data from the middle school, and they were able to disaggregate and better design a program so that those young people that they teach might do better on the end-of-year testing. So as you can see, our projects were very different and very diverse, but very much a part of the Princeton City School diaspora. I'm very proud of these folks. So could you just, for me, clap for them one more time? Because, honey, these people have been through it. Dr. Jameson, let's give them their certificates.
So we have assembled certificates as well as some just appreciation items that we'll hand back stage. But the first person is Paige Belafonte, and then Kenneth Bly, Lynn Burke, Nathan Callan, Nicole Dye, Andrew Fermier, Devin Gallenstein, Joel Gidner, Benjamin Glazier, Jennifer Hahn.
And child.
All right. Kelly Healy, Jonathan Herr, Sydney Lapham, Michelle Moore, Deanna Pinkney, Jennifer Rice, Megan Ryle, Stephanie Stepp, Rachel Strom, Benjamin Titmus, Chelsea Thiedman, Z Tong, Deshanga Watkins, Akoria Willingham, Forrest Yankee. Well, thank you for your time this evening, and this is really great work, so thanks for the recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations to all. Next, we have recognition of Viking Excellence recipients for the school year 2021-2022.
Thank you, President Wider. Every year, staff members across the district vote and nominate those classified and certified staff for excellence all throughout the school year. And we're very proud to announce this now. These awards are passed out during some of our celebrations and or staff meetings, but we do want to recognize each and every one that are here. And I have to say this, we just recognize 8 great young teachers. And we're going to recognize some people in a little bit that are going to go off to different pastures in retirement. But we're really excited on both ends, right, to celebrate the great service as well as the great work in the beginning of their career. But everybody has choices every single night of their life, what to do and what not to do. And literally 2 weeks left of school, it's probably the last place that everybody wants to be in is a board meeting because there's so much stuff going on. But we really appreciate you taking the time to come out to allow the Board of Education to see you and to recognize you, because it's really important to the Board of Education to recognize staff and students. Obviously, we saw amazing students tonight. So I'm going to call everybody by name, whether they're here or not, and then if you can just come on up here and we're going to line up. Board of Education will take a great picture with them. But from Evendale Elementary School, Robin Gunther and Felicia Brown. From Glendale Elementary School, Melissa France, Joshua Johnson. From Heritage Hills, Shelley Johnston, Alicia Sneed. From Lincoln Heights, Ross Tenney, Karen Stallworth. From Sharonville Elementary School, Ashley Woodward and Cynthia Borden. From Springdale Elementary School, Molly Davis and Kathy Davis. And something quick as Molly's coming up here. For those that didn't catch that, Molly was featured as Educator of the Week on television. You can check out that great news story on our website. So congratulations again, Molly. Callie Katzer from Stewart and Mary Klump from Stewart. From Woodlawn Elementary School, Jennifer Kuhn and Latrice. Listen, you know I would normally do that, but I'm really not playing on this one. Sorry, Latrice. Latrice Hunter Miles. Princeton Middle School, Sherry Hegman and Melissa Roush. Princeton High School, Lauren Perkins, Tony Vodnik. Princeton Innovation Center, Vanessa Gonzalez and Carmen Torich. And Princeton Operations Center, Todd Kutel. So you guys come right up here in the middle. Let's take a great picture. Let's give them a major, huge round of applause. Congratulations. As they make their way back, this is such a great honor for them, but it's also a wonderful honor for us and also those teachers and staff members who support them and work with them as wonderful colleagues. So we're really excited to do that. They get recognized in the building at our Years of Service Award now, and then they'll also be recognized at the beginning of the year. One more round of applause for our Viking Excellence Award winner.
Thank you and congratulations again. Some of you are my old partners in crime when I was still working in the district, so it's good to see you. Next, we have recognition of staff members' retirement during the school year 2021-2022.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read off some names. I know that there are at least 2 people that are here tonight. Again, there's lots of choices that people have. And I'm going to read off names. If any of these people are here before I talk about the last 2, just come on up if you would. Kevin Selm, Greg Rogers, Keith Helmick, Linda Milotti, Ray Schreider, Anita McGee, Jamie Moorfield, John Benjamin, Vincent Munlin, Brenda Galluff, Margaret Hiller, Terry Martin, Kim Bath. All right, now for sure this person is really nervous. For sure. You know it already, Kim. Put your hands together. Anita, Kim McCollum. Come on up here, Kim. As Kim walks up here, let me tell you, when you talk about someone that has fire and energy and a can-do attitude and somebody who gives time and time and time again, it's just amazing. That's who Kim McCollum is. She is currently at Lincoln Heights, but I first met her at Stewart, and that same attitude and fire, oh my goodness, it was so alive. You could tell walking in her classroom. The kids loved her, staff loved her, people want to be like her, It's amazing. She is truly incredible. And I see her awesome husband in the audience tonight. And Steve, Kim and I talked about a month and a half ago, and she looked up at the wall and she said, I need to get something up there. Now, here's somebody who is getting ready to retire and is going to spend her own money to put something up on the wall for a very, very short period of time because she believes it'll make a difference. She's absolutely amazing. She's a light in our district. Kim, just stay right up there, but thank you very much. Would you like to share a word or two?
No. Well, yeah, okay. So this is my 25th year at Princeton, and it was a second career for me. I did 17 years in corporate, and it was during a time where everybody was doing the layoffs and cutting out the middle management and the whole nine. And I went back to Xavier and got my master's in education. And when I applied, well, I had done my student teaching at a private school in Finneytown and then at Lincoln Heights Elementary. And when I graduated, the only district I applied for was Princeton, so thank God I got hired. But once I worked at Lincoln Heights, you know, when you're going through your life and you're at that second point in your career, it was like, I was at Finneytown and I said, they don't need me. It was a private school. The kids, some of the kids were reading in kindergarten and 4 years old. And I was like, they don't need me over here. They need me at Lincoln Heights. And so it was the only school I applied at, and I got hired, and here I am 25 years later.
The rest, as they say, is history, huh, Kim?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is not the last time you're going to see Kim, but she certainly is again, I mean, just unbelievable. And I know that last day is going to be a pretty tough day because of all the time and effort, energy that you've given. But on behalf of the Board of Education, thank you so very much, Kim. Kim, stay right up there, though. I'm going to call up your other colleague. All right, Lynn Louderbeck, come on up here. Wait, we could not pick two better people to pair together. I am telling you, light and love and giving and caring, compassion, passionate people. But Lynn, time and time and time again, when myself or Tanya Westwright, our assistant superintendent, or Dr. Mary Phillips, Ladora Hill, when we go into Sharonville Elementary School, we hear stories about what Lynn did. And in fact, probably the biggest compliment, Lynn, that I heard about you is that Lynn just always knows. She just knows. There's so many little things that you've done, Lynn, that have changed the lives of people who you selflessly give to each and every day. Casey Jordan, your principal, told me a story that she was sharing something with you, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago. It seemed to be kind of small, insignificant, actually, in her words. And the next day, if you remember, the next day you had something waiting for her on her desk. And she doesn't mind me sharing this, but she wasn't having a great day going into work. And there it was, with Lynn Louderbeck, the little message, the touch, the whispers. Lynn, thank you so much. Put your hands together, Lynn Louderbeck.
I just want to say that Princeton has been everything to me because my kids went through from day one, and of course, the teachers help raise them. Susan's one of them. So I love the school, and I'm sorry to leave, but I'm kind of excited about it. So thank you for everything, and thanks for your kind words.
All right, thank you, Lynn. And hold on, Kim. Hold on, you're not done. Hold on. So one of the nice things, you know, Princeton has 6,200 students in the district, and lots of staff, lots of moving parts. You know, 2 cities, 4 villages, parts of 3 counties. I mean, it's crazy, right? 3 townships, lots of things. But I am so proud of being able to know, Kim, not only you, but your wonderful husband, Steve, who I know you talk about lifting you all the time. And Lynn, the same thing with Rocco. It's awesome that they're here to support you. Thank you, and let's get a picture with the Board of Education.
congratulations again to those two ladies.
Yes. And if you get bored, you can always apply to work for the district again, couldn't they? Is that allowed?
Retire, rehire.
Yeah.
Ms.
Or you
White,
can run for the board, Gina. That's what
Oh,
I
that's
did.
not a good job.
That's what I did.
They want to be teachers.
So,
Mrs.
the next
Mrs.
item.
Whiter, Mrs. Whiter, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry, go
That's
ahead.
okay. You know, one of the hardest things to do is try to keep information from your director of communication. So, Mrs. Roddy, if you could come up here, please.
Uh-oh.
Do your job and then come on up here. While Tricia is doing that, just let me say a few things about Tricia that, you know, many of the awards and recognitions that you see up here are because of Tricia Roddy and her recognizing the great work that's being done and then promoting that. And you know, it's funny because I literally did not have any idea at all, and this is the only shortcoming of Tricia. She didn't give me enough time for all these awards that we were getting ready to get so that I could be there to support. But we were able to send Tom Sendray going up there to support these awards. But when Tricia and I were talking, I'm like, Tricia, you need to be so recognized for the great work that you do. And while it is her job to promote and all that, it is not her job to spend hours and hours and hours over the weekend when there's no event, because she's just trying to plan, she's just trying to recognize, she's just trying to do those things. The countless hours at night, and I have to tell you, there are many times, much to probably her chagrin, I'm trying to push her out in the parking lot, like, you got to go, it's time for you to go, or whatever the case is. Or those other nights when I drive home and there's 2 or 3 cars left, and seemingly always Tricia's car. She works over and over and over again, and recently we received 4 Mark of Excellence Awards for the Ohio School Public Relations Association at the 2022 OHSPRA Spring Conference. Now, 3 of those, Princeton Quality Profile, Viking Voices, the People of Princeton, and the Alumni Hall of Fame social media coverage, those are awesome. It's great recognition. I know, Tricia, you're very, very proud of that, and we are too. But perhaps the best award, because we believe so much in student voice, it is and will always be about that, and our students. We received an award for the International Baccalaureate IB program film, and we're so proud of that, by one of our seniors who chose to do this in a project, and Tricia found out about it, asked for the video, and next thing you know, we get an award at a state conference. So Tricia, on behalf of the Board of Education, thank you so much for what you do each and every day, specifically for the 4 Mark of Excellence Award. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to Mrs. Roddy. Next is the consent agenda.
I move that we take double A and double B and put it into district business. Is that allowed, Gina?
So, I'm sorry,
According to Robert's Rules of Order, we already approved the agenda, but I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, from the consent agenda, right?
Yes.
There's double A and double B. I'm moving that we move that down into district business number 4. Or we can just vote no, whatever is best for you, which I think would be a more difficult piece.
Just A and B, not C?
Double A.
C? Double A, double
Double
B?
B.
But not double C?
No.
Okay.
Can we, I don't know. My Robert's Rules of Order is sort of short, but is the consent decree separate from the whole agenda? Okay, thank you.
It's a part of the agenda.
Yeah, and we already approved the agenda, but
We're inside of the, we're going through the agenda now in terms of what we're going to be doing in
I
the
get it.
meeting. So, Chris?
So we have a motion.
We have
Is
a
there-
second.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Moore?
yeah.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Motion passes. The next item is approval of the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission.
So,
Oh,
so,
no, no.
so that was a motion to change the
Right.
agenda.
I was gonna say, we have
Now
Okay,
we'll-
well, I
Now
moved
the
Now
them
we'll
down.
go back.
Right.
Okay, well, I moved them on
Yeah.
down.
Now we'll make the consent agenda motion.
Right, exactly.
Okay. All right, now, I'm sorry. And you can see I drew nice little arrows and everything, moving things. So now we'll do the consent agenda.
You're good.
Is there a motion? Or do we have to do?
You need a
Yes,
motion?
We need a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the additions that we just specified, where we're going to move double A to district business, AA will become G, and BB will become H.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Excuse me, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Discussion.
Hmm?
Discussion.
Oh, is there
Right,
any
thank you.
discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
One of the, Mr. Simons had talked specifically about the SFA and asked for some data. I'm going to call up Ms. Westwright to answer any specific questions, but I'm going to pass out specific data which we believe SFA has had a really big hand in. So when we look at growth year over year, so you're going to see this is the same information that we talked to the board about before, but this is perhaps maybe in depth if anybody has any questions.
So we're discussing,
SFA, which is S.
SFA, per your request.
okay, all right.
There you go. It's
So,
just one
Ms.
page.
Westwright, could you talk a little bit conceptually about SFA and what that means, Success for All?
Yes, Success for All is a school reform model that the district adopted in 2012. And I think sometimes that there's a little confusion about, it's more than reading. So Success for All, what you have on your agenda for today, is a copy. I believe he gave you the report card, but then there's also a staple copy of everything that the professional development that is concluded with SFA. Every time that they come to one of our buildings, they look at the school-wide structures, the instructional processes, and student engagement. And so it is important for each building principal to be prepared for all of those elements. And we discuss, is that something that's in place or not in place? If you put the elements in place, then you're going to see a successful implementation, and the students will grow in reading and many other subject areas. It just changes the dynamic of the school. So again, we have worked through that since 2012. We started with having more than 6 to 7 days where a coach will come into the building. We are down to the minimum that you can have, which is 3 days. And again, a reading specialist and a Success for All coach comes to our buildings, each building 3 times per year, and that is what you're approving in the contract, and they go through this full 3 pages to make sure that these things are in place. In regard to data, if you look at our most recent growth chart, where we talk about growth and achievement, It is this chart here. You will see that in reading for 2009, for 4th and 5th grade, we are at Crescent Green. And Crescent Green means that you have evidence of more than expected growth from the state of Ohio. And you will see that same thing in 2021, but you would just have more than expected growth, and that was after the COVID year. So I'm just looking at Ohio State English Language Arts students we're accountable for. How does 4th and 5th grade reading look? We've also discussed in the past 3rd grade reading guarantee. We have a lot of success with students passing and meeting the 3rd grade reading guarantee from the state. So I just wanted to point that data out. If I went too fast, I apologize, but I think that's what you wanted me to cover, right?
Yes, and one of the things that we always have to keep in mind is that the growth is different from the achievement aspect. I mean, it's all achievement, but the reality is when you look at growth, you look specifically at where kids start, and then when you test how far they've grown, right? It should be pretty simplistic. But so when you see a lot of green and we're seeing this great growth, one would assume that if a child started at grade level and you see all this growth, that our scores would be through the roof on any state test. But we do have kids that come into our district that are 1, 2, and even 3 grade levels behind. And so we work really, really hard. So we see great growth sometimes, but the achievement doesn't always match up. So I just wanted really to be very clear on that, because we are seeing growth across the board and we're really proud of it. And as Ms. West-Wright said, that if you implement this with fidelity and great teaching, because there could be the worst program on earth with great teacher and you're going to get great results. The greatest program on earth without great teaching, you're not going to get great results. So it takes both, and that's what we feel SFA is. Thank you, Ms. West-Wright.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Petter, where are we?
Yes.
Vote.
The vote.
Mrs. Cleveland.
Yes.
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler.
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder.
Yes.
Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay. Now, I think we're ready for district business. The approval of the resolution accepting the amounts and rates is determined by the Budget Commission. Mrs. Petter, do you need to say anything about that?
Do you want a motion and a second first?
I move to approve the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'll just remind the board that this is the last part of our approval process with the county. So in January, we present the tax budget and you approve the tax budget. It then goes to Hamilton County where the commissioners review it and approve it. And now it's back on yours, and it has basically the tax rates for collection for next year. And we file this, and we're all clear with the county government for another year. So process we do every year, and every school district in Hamilton County does this.
Are there any questions? Mrs. Petter, do you want to call the roll?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next is the approval of April 2022 financial and investment report.
I move to approve the April 2022 financial and investment report.
Second. Is there any discussion?
I have a few items for your report. Again, your packet includes the reconciliation, the investment reports from Star Ohio and Red Tree. Are starting to see a little bit of interest income improve already. reconciled very nicely, a difference of $57.63. That's quite amazing with the millions of dollars we're talking about. The ESSER report, you know, I'm just getting so excited that ESSER 1 CARES is really, really close. 99.5% spent or encumbered. We are rounding third, heading for home on this one. All the funds must be encumbered by June 30 and expended by September 30, and then we can cross this one off our list and deal with the two larger ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, which we are also making very good progress on. Everybody's working really hard, especially my friend Tom Sendry out there, and he's working hard with and doing a great job with CCIP and making the adjustments as we need spending these grant funds. So this is going very well. The monthly financial report for the month of April, again, moving right through the year. I'm going to save a lot of my comments for the 5-year forecast, but just so the board knows, I want to continue to remind you, we might have this $559,000 difference we're tracking. We're waiting on an E-rate reimbursement. So right now my expenses are high, $559. If that money comes in, I reduce the expense with the grant funds. So this, we're playing close on that June 30 deadline. So when I come to you and say, well, we were off by this is the reason why. But hopefully that check's going to be in the mail. I know we're just waiting for that. We should see that. But other than that, I'll save a lot of my comments as we go through the 5-year forecast.
We've heard that before, the check's in the mail.
It's in the mail.
Okay.
It's the feds. They're sending it.
Okay. Do you want to call the roll for that, please?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Weider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next is the 5-year forecast.
I move to approve the 5-year forecast.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I will share. I think Jason has the slides for the presentation. I want to go over just a couple things before I dive into those slides. Again, this is the review of the year. You know, we have 2 months outstanding in this fiscal year. So we're looking back at what we did in November and shoring up those numbers as we move through the end of this fiscal year. I have a report in the tool that I can use that can compare the November 1 to the May forecast, and happy to report that we did a really good job, and that I have to again say the tool is amazing, and the support we receive from the consultants is amazing also. Our revenue was higher by $1.3 million. Now that sounds like a lot, but on an $85 million budget, that is not that horrible. And the majority of the money, $825,000, is a result of our state funding formula. And as I told you, it was passed at the very end of June and wasn't ready, the formula, they had estimates until almost March. So they phased it in January, February, and then March we had all the adjustments made to the formula. So we did receive an additional $825,000 in state funding after that all was finished.
That's good.
Expenses are, we're projecting, going to increase by $212,000. And again, I'll remind you, that's not a lot of money when we're talking about $85 million. So very close at hitting targets that we had set in November. You have a very detailed report. This is what I will file with the state, and it is the 23-pager, and it goes line by line, and this is known as the notes or the assumptions to the forecast. This gets filed with the state, and then the very back page is the old chart version of the forecast that we used to talk only about this chart. And it has it used to have 3 years of history, and the current year and 4 more years on it. But these are the numbers that get filed, and you'll see when we look at numbers on the report card underneath the state numbers. So this is the packet that goes to the state. You have that in front of you. Now we'll go through the slides, the short version of the forecast. So here's the chart we like to use it's a good view of where we stand. I mean, you can see the revenue, what's coming in each year. Last year's fiscal year 2021. This year, we're current year, 2 more months to go, and then the out years. The gold line is what we have as a cash balance, carryover cash each year after year. So again, as I said in November, things are looking very positive at this point. The numbers are on the second chart, and we have $3.5 million revenue over expense this year. So we're still seeing benefit from the past levy. We also are seeing benefit from the ESSER funds. We supplanted $2 million of salary and benefits, so of course that is helping our bottom line. And we have another $2 million we'll supplant next fiscal year. Then those expenses will return to the general fund in 2024. So you can see that little higher jump in expense in that year in 2024. So that is the year also that we will then shift to spending more money than we're taking in, okay? The ugly term known as deficit spending. And this is, as you look at this, I mean, this is a typical levy cycle look. You pass a levy, you don't always have a pandemic jump in there and grant federal funds fly in there, but you pass a levy and your revenues are high in supporting that, then your expenses start to creep up, and then you're spending more than you're bringing in from your new levy. Typical school district levy cycle. So again, just a reminder too, as I keep reminding everyone, those last 3 years don't have any base increase in them for either of our unions. We start negotiations early next year, so that can impact the way those expenses look. And also, we don't have any of the staff or programming returning to the general fund from the ESSER funds at this point. That too could impact our bottom line. The next chart shows about our revenues. And, you know, again, everyone who's been here for a while probably understands we're a very heavy property tax revenue district. You can see, I'm starting to see some positivity here. If you look in that 2026 column, the state funding bar is getting bigger. Now, this is a result of the new funding formula, which I have very modest revenue estimates. We know it's in law this year and next year. And it had a 6-year phase-in. So I have a very modest increase because we are dependent on our legislators continuing to support the Fair School Funding Plan. I think we'll get to know more and more about that as we move through this calendar year, and then certainly at the beginning of 23 where they start preparing for the next biennial budget. But hopefully we can push that across the finish line, because as I've said a zillion times, it really does benefit Princeton. We've been terribly underfunded by the state. We have student growth, we have poverty, we have a lot of EL learners, we have all those things that cost more money to educate students. And this funding formula addresses those, but not until we get it fully phased in. We're at 1/6 right now. We need to get across the finish line, and we all need to work together to get there. Property tax allocation, again, we have to remember that source of revenue is where our TPPT money is. So that is phased out. That's never going to change. So we continue to lose that about $930,000 per year. And then we had this little issue with Duke and PUP this year, and it didn't impact this half of collection. So we're having to really monitor to see what happens. We made that money up in other areas, Butler County PUP was very good to us. It made up that difference in the Hamilton County PUP. And we'll have to track and watch that as we move into the fall and see how that is handled. Again, that was the reduction in valuation that the High Department of Taxation handles. We don't have any opportunity to speak against that. It was just taken. So the next slide just hits the points, just so you have all those. Again, talking about some of the larger assumptions in the forecast that we've been making. And DPIA, the former economically disadvantaged student funding, we got the 0% on that. We didn't get 1/6. All the districts that received a lot of ESSER funding were reduced to a 0%. Next year we will get 14%, but we're behind on that. I'm not sure what their plan will be to make that up in years 3 through 6. So that's again something that we will have to continue to watch. And again, the funding formula looks a little different because now we're funded based on the actual students we educate and their FTE. So if we have a student come for a week, we get funding for a week. That's how the formula works now. It's ever evolving. Every time we get paid twice a month from the state and they make those calculations. So, but all in all, revenue looks pretty solid and hopes that we can see an increase if the funding formula moves through. The next slide is the expense version. Again, you know, look at us, just a normal school district like everyone else. All our spending and salary and benefits, as I always remind everyone, we have a good portion of that in purchase services since we do outsource our bus drivers and our substitute teachers. So a good portion of purchase services even includes funding for our staff. Again, just a reminder, we see that drop in expense for the supplant of the $2 million in salary and benefits for ESSER funds. You can see it tick up. You can see it tick up a little bit here as we return that supplanting into general fund. Again, you can see those, it appears we have a nice trend upwards in the out years of expenses, since we can see from the other chart that personnel is the largest expense we have. Any increase that we negotiate will impact those. We have to be ready to see those bars go up. And then also any of the ESSER programs that we retain also will drive those bars up. So we have to be ready to adjust as we make those decisions. Purchase services, you can see a little decrease on the bar chart here. I wanted to draw your attention to that too. Because we are funded for students we educate, we saw a reduction in tuition expense out. So the state was taking money for community school tuition, open enrollment tuition. Those were coming out as expenses. So we don't have those anymore because we get money for the kids in the seats. Okay? If you're a community school person, your money's going straight to that school now. It doesn't go through us, which is a benefit to Princeton, because remember, at that time, we were getting just over $1,000 a kid and sending out $6,000 for open enrolled students. So we did win a little bit of a battle there. And then you can see just those are the bullet points for the expense assumptions that we have been talking about. The one I did add in is we have to watch what's going to happen down the road with inflation. You know, we're seeing upticks in fuel cost already. We have utility contracts in place. What's going to happen when those expire? And then just cost of goods. I mean, several years ago, vendors started tacking on all those shipping fees when we had another fuel crisis issue. And so we can probably expect, if this doesn't get solved soon, we'll start seeing all those delivery fees being added on again. Again, just things we'll continue to watch as we move through the next couple years. The final chart is our true days cash chart, looking very healthy. So this is if we shut off the revenue stream, how many days can we operate? And you can see right now we're well over 150, approaching 200. But then as we revenue flattens out, expense increases, you can see that we operate fewer and fewer days. So right now, in 2022, that's about $20.3 million. That's where our line would be, and the line right now is well above that. The final chart, we bring it home with the chart we started with. Again, fiscal year 22, we're in great shape. We see what's coming. We see what's coming. We have plenty of time to plan. And even in that last year, if they stop state funding, we're still at 26 million there. If they stop state funding, we just watch our expenses. If we negotiate increases on the base, that 26 million will not be 26 million. So these are just things we will continue to watch and plan for, and that's our job. That's what we do. But right now, in 2022, we're in a very good position.
Are there questions or discussion? Do you want to call the vote? I think we moved and seconded.
Mrs. Whiter?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next is approval of the overnight trip for the high school jazz band in February 2013.
Were there any other questions on this matter? I thought you had a question, Mr. Simon.
What? On what?
What
On
we
this
were-
5-year forecast?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Oh, I'm sorry, I kept seeing somebody say, Susan, Susan.
Well, I was trying to get her attention. She was on.
Well, I'll move we approve the overnight trip for the high school jazz band in February 2023.
I second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just that we're excited to be able to provide this opportunity for kids. The current seniors missed out on the last 2 years of being able to partake in a couple of these wonderful trips, and we appreciate the music department for their great work to make this happen.
Okay, so where are they going?
Memphis.
When in February?
The proposal was for February 15, 2023, and they return on February 20th, 2023.
Any other questions?
You probably said this, but does the senior class, are they taking a trip overall?
No, the
senior
juniors and the
class?
seniors, excuse me, during the junior year of and last year and then this year, there were no trips, remember?
No trips
Yep,
this year?
no trips.
Okay.
Anything else? Mrs. Petter, will you call the roll?
Mr.
please?
Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiter?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Next is approval of the agreement with Cincinnati Recreation Commission.
I move to approve the agreement with Cincinnati Recreation Commission as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or any questions?
Just that this is an awesome opportunity for our students that will be able to work. It's a youth to work program, as the name indicates, and it's really a wonderful opportunity. Students actually get paid for doing a variety of jobs in and around the area, also at school, and it's determined, it gets approved, and the kids make money, and, money is raised for different sporting events and specifically for different clubs and activities. So currently, I believe it's slated for basketball, but I'm not sure if it's just going to stay there or not. But it's a wonderful opportunity for our kids to make money. They actually, it's going to be very lucrative for us. We appreciate Cincinnati Recreation Committee for coming to us. We know that several programs have come from CPS and the city of Cincinnati out toward us, and we really appreciate that. This is nothing about CPS, nothing about what's going on in the city. But I will tell you that when every single time when we're provided these opportunities, we know that we're going to follow through and get things done, and we give reports out, and the people who fund these programs really like what we're doing here.
So are all these jobs within city limits? Is that what
No,
you're
this
saying?
is at Princeton.
These
So
are
there'll be
Princeton.
opportunity, yeah, it has to be agreed upon. So there's a specific plan that's put forth, and then it goes to either the commission or those people that approve it, and then they say, okay, well, we approve these jobs, and there's tracking. It's all, it has to be very, very detailed, or else it won't get approved. And Mr. Fricky, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add on that or no? You're good?
Anything else?
Well, I'm just curious why Cincinnati would come to promote things out here. I'm assuming this is from Cincinnati, right, the city?
It is. Cincinnati Recreation Commission.
Okay, well, that's why, but why would they come all the way out here?
I don't know about anything. I'm just telling you, we're gonna get stuff done. So we'll come on out here, we will get stuff done. We've seen it multiple times. We made presentations to the Board of Education on specific programming because I think people see what we're gonna do. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Anything else? Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Weider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next is approval of agreement for supply and installation of a solar power system on Princeton property.
I move to approve the agreement for supply and installation of a solar power system on Princeton property as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, this is part of a collaborative effort with the Village of Lincoln Heights, and we're really proud of this. There's, this is just one piece of a much larger program, and Mr. Fricky has worked very, very hard to ensure that there's going to be a fence around the supply unit, is what they call that, and it's going to be on the ground, and it's going to be located far away. Kids, they can't climb on it, whatever. There's going to be fencing around or whatever, but we're really excited about it. It's not going to supply a ton of power for us at all, but solar power, but it at best, Mr. Fricky, what are you, classroom at best? Yeah, one classroom, but it's a bigger project. It's about promoting solar energy and reusable energy.
So I'm trying to visualize, where will it be exactly? Will it be behind the?
Mr. Fricky, can you explain where it's going to be, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah,
till you
that's okay.
mentioned it.
Yeah, no worries.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
So
evening.
the solar power panels are going to be located to the back of the property, off of the playground. There's a grassy area there that starts to drop down to the old Lincoln Heights. So it's going to be right up on that, right on the back side of the fence.
On the backside of the old Lincoln Heights School, or
Well,
the
just
current
on the
Lincoln
back
Heights
side of
School?
our fence, but right there on that grassy area before it drops off.
Okay.
Yep, and then we'll fence it off and put a gate in.
And internet access would be accessible with that as well?
I'm not sure about that.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
So this is.
I know it's solar power. Go ahead. I mean to interrupt you.
So the solar power is just there to collect the kilowatts and all that. It's going to be stored, and then we're going to be able to use a little bit of that, but it's a much bigger project because there's going to be solar systems that will be put up throughout the village.
Okay.
So the internet would be something a little bit different.
Okay. Thank you.
Any liabilities for the district at all?
I don't see any liabilities for it. You know, it's going to be fenced, and you know, it's a pretty rugged system. So any additional power other than the one classroom will go into the grid, and we'll get credit for that. I don't see any liabilities.
So we have a lease agreement with them?
Yes, it's gone through our attorneys, and our attorney actually wrote the agreement up so it could be placed on our property.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Weider?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we need to go back to AA, approval of agreement with Franklin Covey Leader in May 2022-2023.
Was that,
Mr. Burton, do you want to say
No, we
anything?
have to have a motion.
Hmm?
We need a
Okay, well, just,
Was that your motion?
was it AA?
I move to approve
I thought it was B.
the
I thought it was
agreement
Ga- I
with
thought it was
Franklin
Gail.
Covey Leader
I thought
in
he
Me
was
Wasn't it Gail?
2022-2023
we
as
don't know
presented.
what that is.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is Mr. Burton? Now
Just
you
as a
can-
point of order,
Yeah.
did we pull out,
Franklin Covey,
We-
AA.
we pulled that out?
Yeah.
Not the
That-
Gale,
Not the
Gail
what?
is Z.
He's talking about.
the Gale nursing? I just want to make sure
Good question.
That's what I'm
I was thinking
reading.
the same thing.
I heard Gale
I did too.
earlier. So,
I said AABB. Well, he said AABB.
Yeah, but Franklin Covey is BB, not AA.
Okay. And
Well,
I
I
will
have
say,
on-
on the documents that we received, it said AABB, but in the documents we actually received is BBCC. So
Oh.
I'm just saying that
Z
there's
was Gale Healthcare.
that they didn't match
On
up.
the one that was put in here today.
Right. So
Oh.
it is
AA
AABB.
was Franklin Covey and BB was
Right.
Stronatech.
Oh, I'm looking at the one I received at home. It's different. Okay.
Yeah, so, and we have moved AA and BB down.
And so he had pulled out AABB, so is that correct?
And AA is Franklin Covey.
Covey.
Which is what we
And
have.
BB is Tronatech.
Correct.
All righty.
Right.
Perfect.
And we-
So,
and
who
we're
said
on-
anything about Gale?
That was
That's Z.
the one previous to
That was
that.
Z.
Yeah. We didn't do Z.
We didn't do Z.
Nope.
just
We
want to
already-
be
Okay,
sure.
what's on the floor
we're the
is
same.
How about
AA.
you, Tom?
I know. Just for the public, so it goes by agenda item, even if an agenda item is read differently or a different name, it goes specifically by the motion, which is AA. So just want to make sure that we're all,
And if I moved them to the wrong place, I apologize.
And that's on the
No, you're
floor right
good.
now.
You were going by the agenda.
Well, we had moved AA, so,
You made the motion,
I
I
made,
second.
right. I made the motion that A becomes G and BB becomes H.
Right,
I did it based on the letters. I didn't do it based on the name.
Correct.
okay.
Okay.
thank you.
I just want to make sure. Okay. And I believe AA is on the floor right now
Correct.
For discussion.
for discussion.
for discussion. Is there any discussion about Franklin Covey?
Yeah, I mean, did you have a question on it? Do you want them to talk about it, or?
Well, there's no information that was
Oh,
available for us to review at the prep meeting, and so this was added in on the consent agenda.
Yeah,
So I thought we would discuss it.
We had, well, that's why, well, there was discussion on consent agenda as well, which we had with SFA, but specifically regarding Franklin Covey, it's a program that we used last year in our elementary schools. This is called Leader in Me. It's an unbelievable program that has proved beneficial throughout our district. If you go into our elementary schools, you will see very proudly that there are signs over the place. This program has really helped kids accept leadership roles, also really truly understand the importance of proper decision-making and all that. In fact, the Evendale Elementary School, who is here, has shirts that talks about seeing a leader in me. It has been great. Now, last year, we got an unbelievable deal. As we were implementing the program, this year we got the highest discount possible, which is 20% off of the price. It was unanimous that everybody still wanted to keep the program. Actually, We're looking at extending it even into the middle school, but it was just cost prohibitive based upon ESSER dollars. We use ESSER dollars to pay for this, and it's already in our program budget.
What is the cost?
I think $93,000, I think that's what it said.
And that's after the discount.
That is.
And what has the measurable effect been within the school?
We believe we've seen a reduction in behavior, an increase in positive referrals, which we have data to support that.
Just out of curiosity, is there a time that you could bring some of these to a board meeting that we could see? Or
You mean those two pieces of data? Absolutely.
And we haven't advanced this to the middle school?
We have not.
Any particular reason?
Cost.
Where are the most challenging situations?
Well, yeah, it's not like we haven't thought about that, but if, we'd be glad to go back and take a look at the whole ESSER dollars as well to see. We're pretty strict right now with where we are. When you look at that, the $20,000 increase, I believe, is what it was year over year. That's going to cause us, Mr. Sendre, that's going to cause us to move some things around, correct? So it's not that it's not worthy, and we're looking at all kinds of programs.
What
for
grade
middle
levels
school.
does it cover in elementary?
Well, it's K-5.
Okay, so
But it goes through. You could do it for the whole district.
no, I understand
Sure,
that. I'm
yeah.
just saying that since you guys are the experts, but we read the reports, you could change it to 1 through 5 and include the 6th graders. And if that is where the challenges are, if it's doing this fantastic job, then that's something that needs to be addressed year after year, whether it's from this chart or this chart or whatever. It seems like that's a challenge, so why don't we put it there rather than at the lower level?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. You have it at the lower level, and then when the kids go to the middle school, all that they've learned, they transition over as long as there's a really good, robust transition program there, going there, which we believe we have, and we're going to talk a little bit about later as well. But ultimately, we don't have any problem going back and looking.
I'm just throwing that out because that might be a solution. I don't see kindergartners storming the bridges yet, so maybe they can wait another
Train them early,
year.
right?
Huh?
Train them early, right?
Oh, yeah, but if you have 5 years, 1 through 5, then they will be trained.
Well, we'll take that under consideration. We'll look at that.
But if they're in 6th grade and they've had no training, then
Well,
that's a challenge.
They would have had
And
training
full disclosure,
by going through.
I have a close relative in 6th grade, so they will not be able to take advantage of this program if it is moved to 6th grade.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we have discussed the Franklin Covey. Is there anything else? Any questions?
Well, do we want to come back and resubmit, or are we going to vote to as it is now?
Well, I would recommend we do that right now. We could go back, and we have to vote on it right now, but
Oh, I
this would be,
understand
this would throw a pretty significant wrench in planning and all that stuff. We could always go back to Franklin Covey and look to see if there's any modifications that we can make, which I'm sure there would be if we would choose to do that, but we really have to look at that. There's also there's a lot to consider. It's not just that simple, just say we're just going to add 6th grade and not do kindergarten, because there's systemic work that goes on throughout the course, common language throughout the building and so forth. So, but we'll go back and we'll look at that and talk to Nolan Marks is the gentleman who we work with that we could talk to and check and see.
Are there any other questions or discussion about Franklin Covey?
Mrs. Kessler?
She called you.
Mrs. Kessler?
We can
It's her
barely hear down
birthday,
here,
we
so
have to
I'm
be
fine.
patient.
We're voting on to approve us doing it.
Could you restate the motion?
You're going to approve. We made a motion.
Okay.
Okay, yes. Mrs. Whiter?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
No.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we are on BB, approval of renewal agreement with Tronatech for school year 2022-2023.
I move to approve the renewal agreement with Tronatech for school year 2022-2023 as presented.
Second. Is there any discussion? If not, Mrs. Oh,
Yes, what is it?
we're on the Tronatech.
I know, what is it?
Oh.
What is Tronatech?
Mr. Burton, what is Tronatech? There's a question.
No, 1 second, please. Thank you.
That's it. Wow, okay.
Was there not information in the?
It says, yeah, there's a preventive maintenance visits on emergency repairs and replacement parts to, I know you guys were listening to me.
Yes.
I'm trying to see to what? KMBS, what is that? It's for some, it has some models, I'm not sure what this is.
Is it for HVAC or is it for
Mr. Frick, do you have anything to add on
It
that?
just says a maintenance agreement.
Please.
Thank you. I'm assuming some type of equipment. I just don't know what this, it's right here. I just don't know what that is.
Good evening. Tronatech, this service agreement is to do the yearly maintenance and updates on the machinery we have at PAC for transcripts and processing of archive documents for our students.
Those transcripts, okay.
Any additional questions?
And wasn't student, if I read it correctly this afternoon, it's going to help student services if somebody comes back and needs their grade record or their copy of diploma or whatever. It helps
Correct.
to go back and get that.
Correct, and we do recuperate some of those costs because we do charge a small fee for filling those transcript requests as well. Thank you.
I have that Mrs. Cleveland moved.
Second.
And Mr. Simons has seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Whiter?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now we're on to academic update.
Yes, we're excited to talk about our K-12 curriculum adoption and some of our summer school updates. I'm going to call up Ms. Ladora Hill and Ms. Tanya West-Wright. I'm going to pass out this presentation. There's some blank pages in there for you to take notes on.
Good evening, Mr. Burton. Good evening, Board of Education members. We are excited about the elementary curriculum adoption. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to our marvelous principals, assistant principals, instructional coaches, and all the teachers who participated in the 5-month process as we looked at materials, listened to vendors, and gave their feedback and updates with surveys of criteria, what our expectations are for our philosophy of teaching and instructional strategies. Our process, again, involved all of the team members, and we actually talked, we met, we critiqued, and actually met in smaller groups. We met in grade level teams and came to the consensus of what we would like to propose to you for our K through 5 students in social studies. Parent communication and materials review. We definitely value our input and information from our families and to our families. So a document went out to our families electronically with detailed information about what I just shared with you, and also presentations were at the buildings the last 2 weeks. I did participate in those, and we did get some families and staff members to come out. So thank you to those families who did take some time to come out and see the curriculum proposals that we are doing at the elementary school. Social studies. So we are proposing TCI, which is it's Teachers Curriculum Institute, which is for teachers by teachers, and we are proposing this for our kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade students. Our fabulous 4th grade teachers critiqued all of the programs from the vendors and discovered that it did not meet the standards for Ohio history. So we actually went back again, came back to the table, pulled some other curriculum options, and we successfully found a program that could meet the needs of our students and Ohio state standards for 4th grade, and that is Ohio as America.
In addition, I would just add, as we talked about our reading curriculum a little bit earlier, one of the highlights of that curriculum is it is completely focused on the science of reading. And we've talked about the PD that all of our teachers will have with the dyslexia legislation. So if we are missing anything, that is going to come out and we will be reflective and look for new curriculum. But those components of reading are phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. The reason that I add that is that I went to a conference recently, and they talked about one of the things that we forget as reading teachers is that background knowledge. So we've taught the kids a lot of skills, and we've taught them how to go back and look. But we're hoping that with the additional social studies curriculum and a more emphasis on that, it may teach them background knowledge, which may be the missing link for some of them. So they can pronounce it, they can do all of those, but if they don't know things that are happening in the world, that can stop some of their comprehension. So we're hoping that that combo will really help support.
Yeah, Tanya, I just wanted to add for the Board of Education, with the new dyslexia bill, all of our teachers have to have 18 hours of professional development. So there's going to be support that's going to be coming forward. That's state mandated. Now, we have a little bit of time to do that, but still, that's forthcoming.
That's good. Yes. And most of them, like we talked, we have a lot of teachers that do have their reading endorsement that have studied the science of reading, but it'll be great to go through it again because you can never stop learning, and the research is changing. I know you probably see online often that they're talking about different programs that are no longer supported by research or evidence. So for the secondary team, on behalf of Mrs. Stiles, Mrs. Stiles, along with the middle school math department, went through the same process with curriculum adoption. They reviewed a few different resources and really looked at what do we need for the middle school math. We know that that's an area of a concern. They had not adopted a resource in I want to say it was 6 or 7 years, and the resource that they had was then outdated. So they have decided that they would like to propose to go in the direction of the Desmos Illustrative Math as their core Tier 1 resource. That will replace Go Math, which we had before. And then they want to also have Dreambox, which is the online component where students are going to do Tier 1 and Tier 2 supplemental resources. If they complete the lessons per week, we do believe, and research has shown, which is on there as evidence, Every Student Succeeds Act is saying that if we do these things, there's strong evidence that the students will increase their math achievement, and that's always what we're wanting to do. And you can see that report there. And then, and the U.S. studies and U.S. government have to look at a new resource because they're up, and we know that lots of things have happened in U.S. history and government over the past years. So we're looking at which resource is going to be best for our school and our building. And so they'll propose that one. They're piloting, and they will finish that. They should have just finished, so we should be getting that for the next board meeting. Any questions about the curriculum adoptions? And I know you have the first reading of those is coming up later, so you'll be able to see specifically which resources and the process that was used. Okay, quickly, we want wanted to update the elementary summer school information, which is the next slide. I'll just do that quickly. We are going to host summer school at Glendale, Heritage Hill, Lincoln Heights, and Stewart. Mrs. Hill worked with the team. This is where we'll have staffing, so some of the schools will partner, as you see there below. We will have reading, math, writing, science, and social studies, and Mrs. Hill has done a great job of getting into the STEM. They'll have iSpace, crystal clear science, and I don't even know how to say that one, the steel drum band is what I will say. Okay. And breakfast, lunch, and transportation are provided. So hopefully we still have some room there. We've sent out through social media that we still have some slots available. So if there's any parents listening, make sure you sign up. And that'll go from May 31st till June 17th. And then secondary summer school updates, we have the 6th grade bridge camp, the 7th and 8th grade virtual camp, and we have our gifted summer challenge camp. We will also be sending home those choice board activities with the Dream Box. We are really interested in a program for the middle school called Beable, and it is a social emotional that we hope will address some of those things that we talked about addressing in Leader in Me for the middle school. It gives them a career interest inventory and it's a literacy combo. So we're going to try to pilot that over the summer, still working through that process. And then the high school, of course, will have their credit recovery and FEMA credentialing, health and PE for those students that don't want to take that during the school year, and enrichment garden camp. And so we will have breakfast and lunch and transportation provided. So we have a very busy summer plan.
Enrichment gardening camp?
Yes.
Where's?
High school.
You planning something?
Yes,
Mr.
they have some, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Franklin runs the gardening camp, and there's the opportunity, and there's multiple students that take advantage of that. He partners with other programming. In fact, just to put this out in public, I'm going to be talking to our wonderful treasurer tomorrow morning to see if we can come up, find just a little bit of money to help support them, as I think they got caught up with some of the excess cost that's been passed down with transportation and so forth. But it's a great program. It's mentoring. It's also providing opportunities, but he's partnered with the Rotary before and other community organizations.
And there's no fee for the summer school programs at all?
It depends on, for the high school, it depends on why you're taking the course for the high school, but we cover most all summer school fees. So definitely K to 8, and it's your reason at the high school.
Is there a deadline for when parents can sign up?
The deadline has actually passed for transportation, but we always want as many kids as we can, so we work very nicely with our transportation company to say, please, 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 can we add a few more? Because our goal is to have as many students participate as possible, and sometimes they're not happy when we call and say we have 5 more, but they usually work with us. And so that's why I announced that. So they're willing to work with us, and we're willing to get more students involved.
That's good news. Now, I know it may be separate from summer school, but we're still going to have the ACT prep or SAT prep this summer as well.
What we have is the methodized, I believe we talked about that at one of our other board meetings, where the students can do that on their own. And so they'll have, all the juniors currently have access to it. They were talking about rostering sophomores. And then we keep going back and forth about other students because we don't want them to get overwhelmed in it. Because we think if we offered it to middle school, they could just get overwhelmed in it. But the juniors currently have methodized that they can utilize at home. We were talking about rostering the sophomore moving to junior, but we're a little worried about that. So we're working with Michelle Ritzy right now, who's in the midst of IB and AP testing, to figure out what's the best way, because if we send it, we want people to know what to do with it.
And I would say this to all the parents that are listening, that before you get judgmental of a program, you have to really make sure that your son or daughter really implemented it with fidelity, because we actually have all the numbers, and we received some pushback, quite frankly, on it. And then when we looked at it, students that weren't doing the work. So they said that they were doing the work, but they weren't doing it. We confronted politely a couple of the students, who then had conversations with their parents. But this is a great program if you use it and if you're serious about it. You get through some of the tests within 3 hours. Other students that we see, because we see the log-on information, that's some for instance, 20 hours that they were on allegedly, but they only completed like 20, 30 questions. And so we really have to be focused. These are great opportunities for our students. We want them to take advantage of it, but we also want to make sure that they do so in an authentic manner. Because we're going to support, we're going to grow, we're going to do all that, but we need students to do their part and parents to do their parts as well.
And so we're really early in the pilot for Methodized. We just piloted this second semester, so we're still learning as well. So it is available moving forward this summer, but you will have more implementation the next summer because we're looking at how we're going to incorporate it into the classroom. So it is available, but we know as we're all learning and growing together, it won't be as effective this summer as it will be next summer, but it is there.
It's been a while since I took the ACT, or my children took it, but I'm just curious, when they offer the ACT and SAT now, is it offered online, or is that still the number 2 pencil and paper when you take the ACT, SAT?
They're going, well, first of all, during school months, it's primarily offered during that time. So there are other opportunities. They're looking at doing it online. It should be online. There's going to be an option down the line, but right now it's still paper pencil.
Paper pencil. So,
But there has
so
been
I'm
talk,
wondering-
like Mr. Burton said.
Oh, I see. So in light of the fact that the actual test is paper pencil, and some children may not learn or do well on online situations. I was just curious if maybe we could pursue looking into offering a preparation for those tests using paper and pencil with real people in a real place. Not putting down online, don't get me wrong, but I was just curious how that works at other high schools or how that works.
I believe what we offered this year was actually paper pencil for the practice, but what we found is the results come back so much faster
with online.
With the
Yeah,
online,
that's
and
true.
gives that student that feedback automatically.
Yeah.
And we found that our students really appreciate that, and we appreciate that because we don't have to wait to send it in and box it up. It's gonna just come back and let us know how they're doing. So I know that the information that they are all looking to move online, and there's some information that a lot of the colleges are not requesting or requiring ACT, SAT anymore.
No, they're not.
That's starting to become a thing that's more what they're talking about, is that is not going to be a requirement for many universities, so.
Yeah,
But we're still gonna get them ready, because there'll still be those universities out there that do require it.
But some certain scholarships do still depend on.
And so we are still, and we think this is a better direction. Like I said, we were mostly paper pencil, but this online component is gonna give kids more opportunities to interact.
Oh, very good. Thank you for the update.
And June 11th, June 11th is the summer administration, June 11th and July 16th for the ACT.
All right.
Those are the registration deadlines. And June 17th is when the next administration is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you say something, Mr. Simons? Okay, we are ready for the first reading of the Princeton Review and Revision of Policies from the Winter Board Policy Update Meeting. Who's doing it? Is that you, Mr. Burton?
Ms. Fricke.
Good evening. So this is the first reading of the Board Policy Review Committee, which was held back in February, on February 14th. We reviewed and revised 13 policies, which are attached to board docs for your review. So if you have any questions on those, let me know. I'll be bringing these back to the first meeting in June for second reading and board approval. Any questions?
I'll probably set up an appointment to meet with you about them. I have some questions.
All right.
Mr. Fricke, who all is on the policy committee?
I believe Gina is, and I think it's just changed, so Susan was just added. Yeah, it used to be Lillian.
Take her
Yeah,
place.
neither of us were at that meeting.
Thank you. Next is the first reading of the elementary textbook adoptions.
Tanya, did you have anything you wanted to add, or did you cover that during the presentation for both of those? For both elementary and middle school? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
A reminder to Susan and Tom Burton that we have a Records Commission meeting at 6:15 before the next board meeting. We have another list of records that can be disposed of. And another item is, I just wanted to share with the public that Terry Riesenberg, my assistant treasurer, is accepted a job as the treasurer of Three Rivers Local School District, and just want to thank Terry for 10+ years of service to the district. And I'm looking forward to her spreading her little treasurer wings and flying. So very excited for that opportunity. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And the superintendent's report.
Jason. Thank you. So first, I just wanted to thank all the teachers again for all their great work. You know, we believe very firmly that every one of our employees is a teacher. The great work, the wonderful partners that we have with First Student, from the buses, from the students get on the very first face they see, our bus drivers, all the way through our cafeteria, our incredible administrative assistants. So we certainly appreciate all the great work that they did. And this is an example of one of the proclamations that we have received. This particular one is from Springdale. We certainly appreciate that. But during the last business partnership breakfast, which I know not all board members had an opportunity to get to, but every single village had representation there, or city. And so they took turns reading the proclamation that was put forth. So we really appreciated all that great support. You know, one of the things you may not know, or at least have specific information on, is our Youth Build Change research class, which is a direct partnership with the University of Cincinnati and National Institute of Health. Also, there's one other school district in the state of Ohio that participates in that, and that's Manchester, which is out of Brown County. But this is an amazing class. They did presentations. It was incredible. Actually, during cabinet, we stopped cabinet to go over there. But you see some of the data there. It's really good. Kids, this is available for juniors. They actually do action research in the community, and they do a wonderful job of that. They actually get paid to do that through this grant. And we hope that part of the grant will come back, which is free tuition at University of Cincinnati. But you see here such great work. The kids did wonderful job, and everybody out there in the audience was around, and they would attest it. It was amazing. Their presentation experience that they received, I mean, it was just incredible. They did a wonderful job. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that. And you see there's 4 areas that they focused on: mental health, relapse and recovery, stereotypes, and effects on family. They had really hard data. They had to go through all the research process, so they learned a ton. It was great. Ms. Lampe and Ms. Heckman, they do a wonderful job of that. I have a meeting this week coming up with University of Cincinnati to talk about extending the grant. But rest assured, let me tell you that the #1 thing I'm talking about is free tuition for our students that go through the program, which is how initially it was put forth. And we were able to get several of our students that first year covered in tuition at University of Cincinnati. I know our students currently that go through this program will get first kind of a look at, if you will, for several of the grants and scholarships that University of Cincinnati has. You'll see many of the students here on stage going to University of Cincinnati, and several of those went through the program, and we know have big scholarships at University of Cincinnati. I talked to President Pinto. He knows how I feel. I mean, we need to do this for our students. And in fact, let me just throw this out. I've also talked to them about extending the Promise Grant, which is just for Cincinnati public students. But I've talked to them about extending it, doing a pilot with Princeton. Last year, we sent like 72 kids to University of Cincinnati, or at least one of their branches, and the kids are doing marvelous there. Our kids typically graduate that go there 4 to 5 years because some of the barriers that have prohibited some of our students from graduating in 4 to 5 years, like tuition cost, room and board, and so forth, because it's convenient, our kids, that barrier has been eliminated, and you see many of our students graduating. In fact, several of those posted stuff on Facebook a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, when they graduated from University of Cincinnati. One of the most, such a huge honor for me to be able to share a few thoughts at the Special Education Transition Celebration. If you ever have an opportunity to go, it's amazing. And really appreciate the teachers for putting it together and the staff for supporting it. But our kids love that process. They actually do a video. They talk about their future. They talk about what they're going to do. It is simply amazing. And special thanks to Teresa Warren, who's out there right now, for her leadership as Director of Special Education. That's something that warms our heart, and it gives us great hope for the future. So thank you, Teresa, and to your entire department. Just as a reminder about all the signings that we had recently, music department signing was awesome. We had 5 students sign. We also have a ton of athletic signing, but the military signing, which you'll see on the next slide, is incredible. We have a top 20 signing next week. Is it next week? This week, Thursday. Whew, lots of activities Thursday, and you'll see some of those here coming up here momentarily. But our military commitment signing was awesome. Again, this is what happens every single year. We know some kids are going to go into the military, and we really appreciate the selfless sacrifice, but we also know that there are many kids over the summer that choose to do that go into the military. So it's much more than just the 5 that we know will be going into the military. We've talked to a couple of the officers, the underclass officers, and we know that they're going to commit as soon as they can, and we really appreciate that and the great work that's done in that program, led by Lieutenant Brockway. We had a workforce hiring event here that was incredible. We were so excited about what was done. Tanya Key did a great job organizing this and had a lot of support from a lot of other people, but you see there 110 representatives from 61 companies. We had well over 100 students that went through that. Now, one of the goals that we're going to try next year is actually move it up into the day so more students can participate. But I think we had, about 150? Tricia, about 150 students go through. We had several of our students get hired on the spot and go through the process. It's a great experience for our students, first and foremost, but it also helps with the workforce gap we know that's permeated our region. Today, for those that didn't know, we had yet another great gifted collaboration with our students, 4th and 5th graders, that went up to PAC. And so they participate in a variety of activities. Next year, we're going to have this once a month minimally, and we're really excited. Ladora Hill's done a really good job of working with our teachers that serve those students that have been identified as gifted. And we're really excited about what's going to happen. Collaboration is going to be critical. In the upper grades, we're looking at doing more thematic planning, so our students will participate in maybe Mission Mars and some other big initiatives, looking at it as an interdisciplinary unit. So we're excited about developing that, and we're talking with the middle school about that as we speak almost. And then this is something that's garnered a lot of attention, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this for the public. I know the Board of Education knows, but back in December, MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, which is just simply say, this is good faith. It's good faith for Princeton City Schools. It's good faith for Park Harbor, for City of Springdale, and Market Square Capital. And in the in the MOU, it says all these different aspects that we're going to have to not necessarily abide by. It's not legally binding, but there's a lot of information there. One of the things that came up, it said taxes. Well, for school districts, when Chris Petter and I looked at it, it's irrelevant because there's schoolhouse exemption, and we don't pay taxes. We do, but it's very minimal, right, Chris?
Correct.
Very minimum.
Very minimum.
Couple $100,
Right.
a building.
So that would, not only for us, but for our attorney, would not draw any ire at all. However, when the lease agreement came in, it said fair market value and the taxes, which is substantially different, which means we can't apply for or exercise a schoolhouse exemption. Now, in all fairness to Park Harbor Market Square, this is how they're getting TIF dollars. So, you know, we acted on this as a board to approve a TIF to help with infrastructure and so forth. It was a big amount, $200 million or something like that. I think it was $220 million. So part of how they get that money is through people that are paying taxes. So it goes actually to the city, and then the city to the developers, right, Chris? Is that the direction? Okay. So it would be over $1 million for us to lease a property that's not ours. That doesn't make much sense. And the Board of Education understood that, and they're like, listen, that's a big dollar amount for a lease. Market Square and Park Harbor, they're not going to say, hey, don't worry about the $22 million you'd give us over 20 years. They need that money. And so we understand that they need the money. They understand that we're not going to pay $1.1 million to lease a building that's not ours. So in conversation with them, they said, this is what we want. Obviously, that's a big dollar amount, and we have lots of discussion that needs to happen down the line. But moving forward, there's still going to be collaboration, still trying to see if there's going to be any type of potential partnership there at all, but it will not be a STEAM Institute, and certainly not a 612, and certainly not something we're going to spend $1.1 million on it. That would not be my recommendation. And through great conversations, we know that moving forward, anything like this that were to come, the Board of Education will get even more detailed presentations and have even more opportunity to ask questions and throw out different ideas. So we know that there's a lot going on with our district. Obviously, there's about 4,000 housing units that are going in over the course of the next 7 years. That should draw everyone's attention to say, what are the schools going to do if all these apartments have kids in them? Obviously, we would grow exponentially. So to make sure that we're doing the right thing, Mr. Fricke has had great conversations with a company called Future Think. We've used them before, and actually we had the ability to gauge the accuracy of their study that they did before, because we did a study in 2017. So when we looked at the data, which they predicted, right? So they looked at that, they were just a little bit off. I mean, it was actually remarkable when they looked how closely they were with what they said our enrollment was going to be, even today. So with that being said, you see here that the Board of Education approved the Future Think contract on Monday, April 25th. Tracy Healy, who's with Future Think, was sent an approved purchase order on April 27th. Mr. Fricke spoke to Tracy Healy on the 27th about some specific information and what we needed to do to expedite the enrollment study, including talking to Debbie Birch, and then also a couple of points to consider, a couple of charter schools that are either in the district or around our district. That was really important. And then ultimately, within 4 weeks, so now in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll be receiving this, or at least before the next, or the first June board meeting, we hope, so we can have really rich conversations about what the enrollment study shows. Currently, we have, we believe that the middle school is very large. We also know that one of our elementary schools is above capacity, but outside of that, all the schools, for a lot of different reasons, still have some wherewithal to be able to have more students in them. Just as a quick little reminder for the Board of Education, the most accurate data that you'll get is online, but just a few points to consider. Years of service, we're at Stewart Elementary School tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Lincoln Heights on the 16th, Springdale on the 18th. Those, again, are morning programs. The high school one will be in the afternoon, and Glendale will be in the morning. Tanya, what time is that? Or Tricia, what time is that, the high school, 1 o'clock? 2? Thank you. And then we have great programs. We have senior awards on the 11th, top 20 on the 12th, baccalaureate on the 13th, and then we have commencement obviously on the 15th, and underclass awards on the 18th. I was hesitant to put any of these out there because there's so many things going on. So the board update that I send to all of you, please make sure you check the dates. That has all the dates on there. If there's one that you don't see and you're concerned about that, please always call me on any questions you have on anything that I send. I would just always call me for any information that you need that is sent out, anything with board packets, with our very large Friday update that gets sent out. All those dates are in there as well. I know it's a lot of reading, but the Board of Education gets all those. So reading all that will give you the most current information. And so, did you find the time yet? 1:30. Thank you very much. So the high school on the 18th is at 1:30. One of the things we've talked also about is a football locker room that was flooded, if you remember, for those board members that were here before. It is in a massive need of a facelift, as I put there. We know that we put some Band-Aids on there. Mr. Fricke and his team, they've cleaned that multiple times. We've gone in there. We know that that's an issue. We also know that the ticket booths, as soon as you walk in over that bridge, is also an area. I'd like to make a recommendation in the near future to do a master plan and look at that whole facility. Now, I know everybody would probably remember that we did put in new bleachers and a press box. We're not talking about those areas. We're talking about the area where we play multiple sports. Our lacrosse team is over on that field. The locker room is there. Also with the ticket area and walking across that bridge. If you remember, Mr. Fricke, was that 3 years ago when we had that big flood there because that culvert was backed up? We believe that's been fixed. So that whole area over there, looking at that, but again, bringing that forward to have the Board of Education look at a company or two to look at, or obviously be more than a company, but look at a couple different companies to see about doing a master plan. Now those, when you hire somebody with a master plan, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. They do a master plan, and the key is, I feel for this, is that it would be scalable. It's not something that you would do all at once. So that's some information that I would like us to consider to do that so that we move forward very methodically and with a specific plan of action. And then lastly, July 3rd, we know that through a great partnership with the city of Sharonville, there's going to be fireworks again here. So if you didn't get an opportunity to see that last year, please make sure you do this year. Really is something to behold, being at ground level and seeing the fireworks go is awesome. It opens approximately at 6 p.m. Fireworks will start approximately at 10. The second item we'll get to in a second, but 4 food trucks plus Kona Ice, plus we believe a couple of the our booster organizations or our foundation will be selling food as well. We'll have game booths, and then the city's working on a live band, which will start at 7 o'clock. For a conversation right now, to have a temporary liquor license, I know we've approved those before. We've also said we weren't going to do it before, so I wanted to kind of just get a gauge of where the Board of Education was for us to apply for a temporary liquor license. We do know that doing so would be certainly looking at that from an added really focus that we'd have to have. We'd make probably a lot of money for the foundation, whoever would be selling that. It would be run through Third Eye Brewery, which is right across the street. And just as a point of order, we do know that the last time we had that, people went over to Third Eye Brewery and then they walked on campus. So we know that this is kind of an item that we definitely want to have open discussion about. So I just wanted to know, because we have to apply for it. There's certain things that we have to do in a timely manner. So if we feel like that's a good idea, I'd be glad to move forward with it. If it's something that there's concerns and we don't want to, then I'd be glad to just move forward the way that it is right now.
I would like to have more discussion. I think I need a little bit more information. That's just my take.
I have that
probably
as an
agree. I
item
guess
on
my
your-
biggest concern would be more about additional security, the fact that you are going to have young kids running around.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's a good mix to have alcohol being served when you have a lot of young kids running around in between. It's just a question, so I think I would just need a little bit more information.
I have that as a possible topic for a work session on your
Great.
list.
Okay.
And on the 23rd, we don't have a topic right now.
Great.
Would you like me to slide that in for the 23rd?
Works for me. I don't know about
Yeah,
everyone
it's good
else.
with me.
Anybody else have any comments? Because if nobody wants us to move forward, we'll just stop it right now. We won't even move forward.
Sharon Fest has young children and alcohol at Gower Park. Not that that's a municipality and we're a school district. I'm just throwing that out as differences in behaviors. This started last year and it was a positive for a first start. We have a little bit longer planning window, so I'm for it to go ahead, and I think we got very positive reviews last year.
Isn't somebody's birthday tonight? Should we
So
move
we
on?
should have,
It
so,
is somebody's birthday.
so just to wrap up this conversation before any birthday
thought we were
wishes
done.
or whatever. So we are going to have this on the discussion then on the 23rd.
Yes. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay.
Can we move to the next?
Then, just so that the board knows, I'll check tomorrow, but we may have to apply for it. We've had it before and not utilized it, so that's not a problem. We had it last year and didn't utilize it. So there's certain things that we have to do. So I need to check on that. Usually it's a 30-day period of time where you apply and then they do what they do. So there's sign-offs and there's some things. So I'll check tomorrow, and if it's urgent, we move on it quickly, I'll move on it, but we don't have to use it. We would just have it.
I don't want you to move on until we discuss it. That's my opinion. Because I'm interested in hearing what we as a board and other board members feel about it before we make a decision.
Nothing like being prepared.
Yep.
What does move on it mean? I mean.
It just
what-
means that
is
we
it
would
just
go through the
paperwork?
application, we would do that, but just because we have it. Remember, last year, we actually voted that we would do this, and then when it came down to it, because we had to move so many different parts, when he actually had it, we got it, I think, 3 or 4 days beforehand, but then we decided not to sell anything. So we did have it in our possession last year as well and did not exercise using it. So we could do that, but I'm just saying on the if come that we need to move on it quickly, then,
Can you notify us and let us know what the timeline is? I mean.
Sure, I'd be glad to
So
do
that
that.
way we
Mhm.
can.
I'd be
That's a
glad
good
to do that.
idea.
I'll shoot that in an email.
That's a good idea.
Would be plenty of time.
All right, that's what I was thinking, so we don't have to do it like this
So
second.
is that the end of
Right,
this
that's
report?
why I was, 'cause what
We
you
should,
said-
I think we should be okay. I'm just protecting it because every single thing that we do, and everybody out there in the audience knows, if somebody says it's supposed to take a week, I would love it if it just took a month. Because it does. I know it's a 30-day period of time. Now, they may approve it faster or not, but who knows where they are, if they're log jammed or whatever the case is. But I'll send an email tomorrow when I find out to the Board of
Wish
Education.
we'd known about it sooner.
Is that the end of your report, Mr. Burton? Is this your executive session? I see an executive session on here.
Well, during agenda prep, it was, I thought you and Mr. Simons wanted to, you had,
If we don't need one, we don't have to.
I don't have
Okay, if
anything.
we don't need one, then we can dispose of it so that Jody can get home for her birthday.
I was trying to look out.
We all
Is
are.
that what we're celebrating? Is that your house?
Okay. I move that we adjourn. Gina,
Yes?
I move that we adjourn.
You do?
I
Okay.
do.
I got a question, point of order. Even though we're not going into executive session, since it's on the agenda, don't we as a group have to vote whether we want to go into executive session or not?
We have to vote to go into it, not to ignore it.
So we can just ignore it, you're saying?
Right.
Okay, is that right, Attorney Cleveland?
And then I move that we adjourn, Gina.
I know, but point of
Yeah.
order, I just want to know, can we just ignore an agenda item?
You have
Or
to move
does
to
it
go
have to-
into executive session. And
Oh,
you
I
have
know
a
that.
vote,
I
And
know
we're
that.
not moving
But
that.
we're not
Okay,
moving.
okay. But I'm still trying to hear from Ms. Cleveland. Maybe she doesn't hear me. I don't know.
She's cleaning up
Is
her
that
bed.
right, Ms. Cleveland? Okay, just checking. All right.
Okay,
So you're moving to adjourn?
to adjourn.
And maybe someone will second that.
It was seconded.
Okay.
By Mrs. Cleveland?
I second it.
Mr.
Mrs.
Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wider?
Yes. We are adjourned.